Sorry. So one of the things that, as we go through this, that Mike just talked about, when you're talking about utilization of medications, one of the things that you need to make sure that you are paying attention to, and that is simple question: is it working? Right? We have a tendency, and Michael and I are just as guilty of this as anyone else. We have a tendency to, well, it's not quite working. Let's add something else. No, that's not quite working. Let's add something else. Well, the idea behind this needs to be, if it's not working, do we really need to add something else, or do we need to try something else? Meaning, get rid of what it is that's not working and then try something else. So be thinking of that as we move into the second part of this, which is the inappropriate sexual behavior part. So as we talk about this particular type of behavior, it usually starts with some aphasia, so some language abnormality, loss of speech function, things like that, and then usually builds from there into sexual acts or implied sexual acts. It's commonly associated with frontotemporal dementia, which has obviously gotten a lot of publicity recently, because that is what Bruce Willis is diagnosed with. And his, again, started with aphasia, some speech things. He's kind of removed from the spotlight now, so we don't really know what's going on with him currently, but that's all frontotemporal dementia related. And then also vascular dementia. And really what the idea is if you see our little map of the brain here, a lot of these sexual behaviors are thought to come from either the frontal lobe or the temporal lobe of your brain. And as as whatever may be the cause of it, reduced circulation, whatever it may be, as those parts of your brain are impacted, that's what happens, and that's why you've moved to having some inappropriate sexual behaviors. So what are the causes? Well, again, a lot of this is, it may be slight changes over the course of time, right? So it may start with, I can't find the word I'm trying to use, right? Some speech issues that you don't really think too much of. And then it progresses from that to actually you can think of the word, but not being able to say it, right? And then, again, progressing from there. The typical etiology is you're having issues remembering, discerning things, remembering kind of what the societal norm is. So again, maybe some inappropriate behaviors, but not necessarily sexual in nature. It's the social norm for all of you to be either paying attention or sleeping, but it's not the social norm for you to be shouting out, like we're at a baseball game or a football game or something like that. So it's those types of things that you may act just inappropriately for the situation, and that's kind of the start of it. In this particular type, in dementia, the patient's libido doesn't typically increase. We have a tendency to kind of think that that's what's happening because, there's all these sexual type behaviors, but it's really not that part of it, right? And again, they lack censorship, they lack awareness, they lack some boundaries. I know some folks that's just their typical personality, is they have a tendency to lack some of those things. But again, it's a change from what was normal, Actually, a friend of the family, and unfortunately she has passed at this point in time. She was a librarian. Her whole career, spent her life as a librarian. I think she was a librarian for 40-something years. So she was naturally quiet, bookworm, loved to read. When they would go on vacation, she would pack 2 suitcases, one with the clothes that she was going to wear on vacation and 2 with the books that she was going to read. And the change was that she became very outspoken. She lost any kind of filter, and that progressed to inappropriate things that she was saying and things like that. So again, it's the change more so than necessarily exactly what that, So if you have someone who's loud and obnoxious, and they're still loud and obnoxious, I'm sorry that you can try some of these drugs if you want, or you can just try to avoid them. So when we talk about management, and Mike, I'm going to pass it back to you here as we move into the management piece. Again, think about, we love drugs. I own a pharmacy. The reason why I'm standing here is because of drugs, all right? So I am pro-drugs. If you all want to take drugs, the best ones come from Guardian. That's just me, right? But again, have to be thinking about the patient's best interests, and a lot of times the patient's best interest is not the medication route first. All right, so Mike, I'll pass it back so you can talk about this.